Welcome to Whispers After Dark, where the shadows speak and the night listens. They say when the Bone Reaper walks, the living tremble, his axe thirsts for souls, and the night is his to claim. Once, he was the Axeman of New Orleans, a man whose crimes painted the streets red. But vengeance is a cruel mistress, and a voodoo curse bound him to the darkness forever. Now a hollow specter of bone and rage, he hunts beneath the moon, searching for those who stray too far into the night. If you crave stories that chill your spine and linger long after the last word is spoken, you're in the right place. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell, because the night is full of whispers, and you don't want to miss what they have to say. Now, let's get on with our story. Tonight, our story is one that lingers in the damp air of New Orleans, carried in whispers through the streets when the fog rolls in thick. A story of a man who became something far worse than a murderer, something cursed to walk the night forever. It began in the 1920s when jazz was king and the city pulsed with life. In the heart of the French Quarter lived a man named Silas Leroux, a bitter, angry soul who believed the world had cheated him. He drank too much, gambled even more, and when he lost, which was often, he took his rage out on those who had nothing to do with his misfortune. It was a dark, foggy night when Silas made his way through the bayou to the home of Mama Celeste, a voodoo priestess both revered and feared throughout the city. His axe, still slick with the blood of his last victim, gleamed under the pale moonlight. The metallic scent clung to him, mixing with the damp, heavy air. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with the thrill of what was to come. He sought power, wealth, a name that would echo through the streets of New Orleans long after he was dead and buried. The moment he stepped into her candlelit room, she was waiting. The air was thick with the scent of strange herbs, laced with something ancient and knowing. Shadows flickered against the walls, stretching and shifting as if listening. Mama Celeste's dark eyes bore into him, unflinching. "I have seen you in my bones, Silas Leroux, and I have seen your desires. Be careful what you ask for I have seen your future. I will grant only one." Silas scoffed, dragging the edge of his sleeve across his axe blade, smearing blood into the fabric. His lips curled into a grin. "Then give me fame." He knew that with fame came power, and with power came wealth. Mama Celeste did not smile. She did not waver. "I will grant your wish, Silas Leroux." Her voice was a whisper, yet it rumbled through the room. "Wealth you will never have, but the city will tremble at the mention of your name." The smile faltered on his lips. For the first time, something cold prickled his heart, sharp like a heated blade. His fingers curled tighter around the axe, and a tremor ran through him. Mama Celeste's lips moved in a language not meant for mortal tongues. The candle flames twisted unnaturally, their light casting long, writhing shadows. A wind howled through the closed windows. The walls groaned. A searing pain tore through Silas's chest. He fell to his knees with a strangled gasp, clutching at his heart as if he could hold it together. His breath came in ragged, desperate gulps. The room pulsed, bending, warping, reality itself shifting around him. His flesh shrank, blackened, and peeled away. His bones gleamed under the flickering candlelight, stripped of everything that made him human. His hands curled around his weapon, now fused to him, as though it had always been a part of his very being. "You thirst for blood, so blood shall bind you," Mama Celeste whispered. "You shall walk these streets when the sun sets, seeking what you cannot find. But when the jazz plays, you will remember, and you will know regret. The city will know your name, Bone Reaper." Silas staggered to his feet. No longer a man, but a hollow thing, his skeletal fingers gripping an axe that had become an extension of his cursed soul. As he staggered into the darkness, Mama Celeste's laugh echoed through the swamp. New Orleans, 1927. The night was thick with humidity, and the distant glow of a street lamp made the fog shimmer with an unearthly hue. The scent of rain clung to the air as Henry Duval stumbled through a narrow alley off Bourbon Street. The lingering echoes of jazz from the club where he worked still thrummed in his ears, but now, in the silence between the buildings, there was only the sound of his own breath and the scrape of something dragging against brick, a quiet, distant shuffle of feet. Henry froze and glanced over his shoulder. The alley was empty, wasn't it? The gaslight above flickered. The shadows stretched unnaturally long. Then came the sound again, a slow, deliberate scrape, 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 metal against stone. His heart pounded as he turned, and there, at the mouth of the alley, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. The glow of the gaslight caught on something gleaming in its bony grip. An axe. Henry didn't wait to see more. He turned and ran, feet slapping against the wet pavement, breath hitching as he reached the next street. But he couldn't outrun the sound, the relentless scrape of metal on cobblestone. Suddenly, the doors of a jazz club swung open, spilling music into the night. And just like that, the scraping stopped. A laugh floated through the fog, low and chilling. Barely breathing, Henry dared to glance over his shoulder. The alley was empty once more. No laughter, no scraping, just the music, its slow, haunting notes filling his chest with dread. He had heard the stories, the phantom that locals called the Bone Reaper, who walked the streets of New Orleans on nights when moonlight pierced the fog. Henry turned and ran. The mist closed around him, swirling, twisting, disorienting. His foot caught on uneven stone and he stumbled, crashing onto the cobblestones beneath a flickering street lamp. Cold dampness seeped through his clothes. Laughter echoed in his ears, the scrape of metal on stone. The last thing he saw was the figure towering above him, hollow eyes staring down at him, and the blade of an axe gripped in a skeletal hand. By morning, a grocer found his body sprawled on the steps of his store. The flickering light above cast eerie shadows over the scene. Henry's chest cleaved open, his blood pooling into the cracks of the cobblestone pavement. St. Louis Cemetery, November 1st, 1986. New Orleans. Claire LeBeau had never believed in ghost stories. Growing up, she had heard whispers of the Bone Reaper haunting St. Louis Cemetery. Only once did she dare sneak inside its gate. In the dim moonlight, she felt as though she were being watched. Then came a whisper in the dark, "I see you." She ran. For years she chased tales of superstition and the paranormal, eager to expose myths for what they were. She needed to disprove the nightmares of the Bone Reaper that had haunted her dreams. Tonight, she had returned to the cemetery to investigate recent sightings of the Bone Reaper. The metal gate creaked loudly as she pushed it open and stepped inside and took her first step. Her notepad was clutched tightly in one hand. Her small Instamatic camera hung from its strap around her neck. The moon hung low, silver light casting jagged shadows over the mausoleums. Claire stepped carefully over the cracked pathway that wound through the cemetery like a maze. The ancient tombs stood hauntingly beautiful in the darkness. The gravestone statues seemed to move and shift in an unearthly manner. A winged shadow loomed before her. She caught her breath, her pulse hammering in her ears. The clouds shifted, and moonlight spilled over the carved figure of an angel marking a grave. Claire exhaled slowly. Then, the air shifted. The warmth of the night bled away, replaced by a sudden bone-deep chill. Fog curled through the cemetery, thick and suffocating. A rustling came from behind a grave, something or someone moving in the darkness. Claire swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her ears as she strained to listen for movement. Silence. Then, a low creak, a scraping sound, metallic, echoing off the broken stone. Her flashlight flickered as she turned toward the source. The old, rusted gate was swinging open. Beyond it stood a figure, tall, dark, hollow eyes glowing like embers. A tattered suit clung to its skeletal frame, a dark hat obscuring its face, and in its grip an axe, catching the moonlight like the gleam of a wolf's eye. Claire's breath hitched. She stepped backward, her heart beat a thunderous drum in her chest. She slowly lifted her camera. She didn't dare look through the viewfinder, just pointed and clicked. The camera whirred, and the instant photo dropped at her feet. Then, faint but unmistakable, the sound of a trumpet drifted from the quarter, a slow, mournful jazz melody floating over the tombs. The figure twitched. A shudder passed through its bony form, and then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone, vanished into the shadows. Claire fled. The next day, despite every instinct screaming at her to stay away, she returned. When she found the photo, it was resting on the granite base beside the angel's feet. With trembling fingers, she reached for it, then jerked her hand back. A face of bone grinned back at her, and scrawled in blood across the photo were the words, "I see you." Mardi Gras, the Roosevelt Hotel. 15 years later, the hotel room door clicked shut, sealing out the distant echoes of Mardi Gras revelry. The night had been a blur of music, masks, and mystery, and now she stood in the dim glow of the bedside lamp, watching the stranger who had danced with her through the night. His dark coat hung on his tall frame, his hat casting a shadow over his sharp features. "You never did tell me your name," she said, kicking off her heels. The man, tall, elegant in his dark coat and hat, tilted his head slightly. "You already know it." Her smile faltered. Something about his voice. It was the sound of rust scraping metal, of wind moaning through tombs. The room turned cold, too cold. The music in the streets outside blocked out by the sound of her own heartbeat. For a moment she stopped breathing. A metallic scent curled into the air. His voice was a rasp of wind through dead branches when he whispered her name. He lifted his hand and she saw the axe, rusted and pitted, fused to the bones of his hand. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as he slowly raised his head. In the dim light, his hollow sockets burned with an unnatural glow. She heard his slow hiss of breath. Fear turned to sheer terror when he spoke. "I see you." The whisper slithered through the room as the lights flickered, then died. Her scream never left her lips. Are these stories about the Bone Reaper truth or legend? What do you think? Maybe the Bone Reaper still roams the cemetery of New Orleans, or maybe the Bone Reaper is a creature of the night that I created. Legends and truth are often hard to separate, because every legend begins somewhere with something. Every myth has a beginning. Every whispered tale is born from something. And the Bone Reaper, he was created from my own imagination. The Axeman of New Orleans he was born from? He existed, but his name wasn't Silas LaRue. Whatever his name, he was a madman who wielded an axe and rained terror over New Orleans in the early 1900s. You can find his story in our channel after you subscribe, and then click the link in the video description below. Maybe the Bone Reaper really is out there, watching, waiting. And if you are in New Orleans and you hear the sound of metal on stone, run. Thanks for watching this episode of Whispers After Dark. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, please explore the other chilling tales on the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's truth to the legends? And be sure to join me next time for another eerie journey into the unknown. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and beware of the whispers after dark.